This is very exciting. Joining me on the Unsolicited Response Show is Don Weber. He is the founder of Cutaway Security, and Tom VanNorman, who is a senior VP at Grimm. But the reason I have them on the show really is more for their role as kind of the leaders in the ICS Village. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Dale. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dale.
Nice to have you back. I think Tom, you've at least been on once before, but we're going to talk ICS Village and CTFs today. And specifically, I guess the trigger for this is that the ICS Village will be running the ICS CTF, the Capture the Flag competition at S4x23 in about a month, February 14th through the 16th. But maybe let's just take a step back and talk a little bit about the Village to start out. The ICS Village has quite a history doing these Capture the Flag competitions. Can you explain a little bit about what you've done at Defcon or wherever you think some of your best competitions have been? Tom, maybe we'll start with you.
Absolutely. So, Dale, ICS Village, we started about 7 years ago at Defcon. Time flies when we think about that. But over the years, we have developed a couple different Capture the Flags that we run at all of our events. So far, the Capture the Flags have been both virtual and in person since the pandemic and everybody shutting down everything. We've run hybrid CTFs at the last couple of events. We're really excited to get back doing in-person ones against real assets and hardware, software, things like that. What we've done in the past, we have set up different networks and allowed people to capture these flags against different industrial control system networks. We have went and had well over, thinking back at our last statistics, but we've had well over 5,000 people since we started this couple years ago, players. We've also had large networks at Defcon with different PLCs, different HMIs, parts of processes, stuff like that, so we can see the cyber physical effect when you capture a flag. At S4 coming up here in the next month, we have something very similar that we're putting together with the help of the Platinum sponsors, as well as some other sponsors from ICS Village that are providing flags.
Mm-hmm. Just to maybe talk a little bit before we get on to the S4 stuff, I'm a little curious, and Don, maybe I'll start with you on this. You've been doing Defcon for a number of years, whether it's 7 years or 6. I don't know when you did your first Defcon. You said you've been doing it for 7 years. I would imagine in the early years of Defcon, the person playing the CTF would be very different than the S4 person. The S4 person, we go for the advanced ICS security professional. Early Defcon, I think in previous conversations, is people, what is a PLC? What is how do they control physical processes? Kind of almost as much of an awareness, an ability to interact with these weird systems they've never seen before. I'm curious now, 5-7 years later, are you seeing, or what percentage of people do you see walk up to the ICS Village at a place like Defcon, a general purpose conference, that already know something about ICS and are ready to engage with it with ICS specific techniques and tools?
Very few.
And I was really surprised at the Defcon this year. It was an excellent event. When I first got involved with this, with the ICS Village, it was at the first Defcon, and Tom had gotten several sponsors together and put together a large wall. I mean, it was huge. It had these massive pieces. We were afraid people were going to get injured. Everybody had to wear gloves to put it all together. And so that was the first one. And it was much more of like what you described. It wasn't a CTF back then. It was more like, hey, come interact with these devices. They had some tabletop devices that people could get in. They could do their Nmap scans. They could interact with some of the management interfaces. And so it was more of an educational experience. There were people from the industry that had been around a long time. A lot of the people that you've worked with at Digital Bond were there providing guidance, giving talks and so forth. And that's how it originally started. So less of a CTF. Then eventually Tom and some of the other members of ICS Village started doing the CTF type approach because people like to win things. They like to experience. This last DEFCON, which was, I hadn't been to the previous 3 or 4 just because of COVID and other responsibilities. But this last one, we had a lot of different people. Tom and the team got together a lot of different groups, and they kind of sat down and developed their own CTF. So we didn't have one large CTF. We had about 3 or 4 of them going on at different locations. And at the very beginning, and if you've been to DEFCON, you realize like on the first day how full it can be. You know, so many people trying to get in and sit there and wait for events. There's, you know, they call it line con sometimes. And so I was milling around outside. We hadn't opened up the doors yet, and I thought that the line con in front of our doors were for some other talk or something like that. And I was trying to move people back. And then I was like, wait a minute, what are y'all here for? We were like, we're here to get into ICS Village. And so, yes, there were people waiting. There were people that were specifically there to do some of the microgrid challenges and a lot of the escape room that CISA put on. So it was an excellent time, an excellent event, and a lot of turnout with people specifically there to experience ICS OT environments and technologies.
Well, and you bring a lot of equipment out there. I saw it a few years back. It's been not since, I haven't seen anything live that you've done since COVID. This will be my first time at S4. But Tom, you're a 501c3, right? The ICS Village is a charitable organization. You have people that sponsor it and then volunteer time like yourselves, and you've put together quite a set of equipment and quite a set of sample systems to demonstrate what it does and also to be used in the CTF. Maybe talk a little bit about the size and scope of things you've been able to develop, and maybe a few hints on what you're going to bring down to S4.
Absolutely. So, Dale, you're absolutely correct. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years since we converted into a nonprofit, we've been able to purchase and accept donations from many different companies, whether they're sponsors, whether they're companies that like our mission and decided to give us hardware, software. So the things we're bringing to S4, we have our larger displays with a chemical or water process on it that we've had around for several years now. We've updated the control hardware on there. This is the first time we're coming out with new hardware. We have developed a 3D printed city with one of our sponsors that we're going to bring out, and it's pretty cool. It has a little Tesla coil on it and it's controlled with a PLC. Everything's lit up, and when we integrate it with a CTF, we're still waiting to see if we can work out the final bugs to see if we can implement it for S4. We're just about there, and we hope that we can. But it's pretty cool. You know, when you hack the substation, we have a Tesla coil that goes off, and you see sparks thrown all over the place, and the city goes dark. Or you can go and attack certain assets in the city and capture some flags that way and whatnot. So for S4, we have a couple new things that we're bringing out that we're integrating. We've been fortunate enough to SANS is allowing us to use their Cyber Ranges platform that Don can speak on. Don's been leading the challenge integration with Tim Conway in that platform, and he can speak on it here in just a second. But yeah, for S4, we have our displays, our city that we're bringing, some of our sponsors donated some more hardware and other things for us to bring. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody there. It's really our first. Well, it's going to be our first in-person event for 2023. And since we come back out of COVID, we've only done 2 other ones, and they've really been hit or miss. We've done. You mentioned earlier in this episode one of the other events, but they've all been. Hey, let's see what happens. Here, we're really thinking 2023 is going to be different than let's see who shows up. One of those things after COVID. Now I think that, hey, we are going to have a good turnout. People are really anxious to get back to see face to face and stuff. So,
yeah, I have no doubt because I see the ticket sales. So I know you're going to have a good crowd there. I mean, we had 800 people last year, or I guess I can say last year now at S4x23, now that we're in 2023, and we'll be somewhere between 800 and our max of 1,000 at this point. We're almost at 800 right now. So
very nice.
That should be good for you. Plus all the 100 women in ICS and a bunch of other people that the Pwn to Own people might stop by and play a little bit and all sorts of things. But I wanted, before we get into the logistics of how it's going to work and maybe this interface that you were talking about that Don is heading up, I want to let people know that so the ICS Village is running the CTF. The ICS Village is bringing down the gear that Tom talked about and will have their own flags. But then we're going to try something that's a little bit different here this year. And I'm really excited to see how it goes. It may go really well. It may be mixed. We'll have to see. But if you've been to S4, it's not an event. We try to make it an atypical event. The last thing we want is a big ballroom with an exhibit floor with a bunch of 10-foot tables and, marketing people standing behind the tables trying to collect leads. So we don't do that. But we had 8 rooms up at the Lowe's on one level above the stages. And what we decided to do was we decided to call those S4 prime rooms. And we've got 8 vendors who are our sponsors. They paid to get in those rooms, who will be having sessions on Monday. They can do demos in those rooms, client meetings in those rooms, roadmap meetings. They can do whatever they want. Essentially, it's their little breakout room associated with this. But one of the things we said is, if you're going to have one of those rooms, we want you to be part of this CTF. So in a sense, we've got the ICS Village flags, and then we have 8 other vendors creating flags, and they have to create at least one that can be done over the internet and one that can be done physically there. Because we wanted to win, we wanted you to have to be present to win. I mean, kind of a selfish show reason. We wanted the winner to actually be present at the show. But I'm really curious, when you have that many different people developing that many different flags, I'm not sure who's been bringing the flags in, but you've been getting them. I've been seeing the emails. What are you seeing from these flags? Are you seeing a variety of different flags? Are you seeing a theme in the flags, or any other way you'd characterize them?
Well, and it's so all of this, each one of the sponsors, they've got technical expertise, but if you go look at the sponsors page out on S4, the website, you'll see that there's security vendors in the ICS fields, but there's also ICS vendors. And so there's a little bit of a different dynamic associated with their approach. And so what I'm seeing is that some are building industrial environments. Some organizations that aren't used to the whole CTF thing. In other words, they never planned a CTF. They don't have the questions. They didn't have the infrastructure. They have put together a team that are doing this for the first time. So we're having a variety of approaches, and which means that it's going to be interesting to everybody. It's there's not one specific thing. It's not a full, like, everybody's following the same theme. You go to one vendor, they've come up with one scenario. You go over to another vendor, and it's going to be something completely different. Different challenges as far as doing breaking encryption, looking into PLCs and reconfiguring environments, some physical kind of puzzles, and of course some of the online stuff. Your typical PCAP, but also breaking apart mobile apps. So there's a lot of variety in the CTF. I can see where it might seem a little bit disjointed, especially since you have to go from room to room to room, but that's part of the challenge that people are going to have. And it's going to get them out to experience those different groups and the people that they have there, the expertise that they have there. I really like that you set it up like that, Dale, because it is going to get people out there, not only going to be playing a CTF, but they're going to get educated on and network with people out in the industry. So I think I'm really looking forward to it. Is it going to be a challenge? Yes, but I think they've all pulled together. We're still kind of wrapping that up and kind of tying a bow on it right now. But I think it's going to be successful.
When you talk about the different types, so for example, Siemens and Schneider Electric are two of the S4 Prime room holders, and so you can see how they might develop certain types of flags, and then you have a consulting company like 1898, that might do different ones, and then I think you have Fortinet, which is sort of in the middle. They have all these sort of network infrastructure gear, and then you have Torio, who has a specialized type system. So I think at least our hope was you'd get a different set of flags. I know when Reed Whiteman put on a great CTF back when, I think for like 3 years at S4, but a Reed Whiteman CTF has a certain flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of Reed loves level 1 devices. He loves hacking into PLCs and other things. So he had a very heavy level 1 device type CTF. Here with all these different creators, I think you might get a real mishmash of different things you have to be able to do to be competitive.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be a mishmash. And part of the, when they were talking to me about, especially those organizations that didn't have something set up, they were like, okay, what should be our approach? What should we do? And I was like, hey, why not make somebody use your technologies to get something? And, it's, I personally, I'm not a fan of, finding the location where somebody stuck some kind of hash and it's specially marked and you pull it out of there. I'm more of a fan of, hey, let's go find the IP address for a certain thing. There's this activity that happened. Let's figure out how to use the technology to find that, because that's helping us identify network and system-based artifacts that tell us what the story for something that happened. So some of them did take that approach. Some of them took the other approach. Both are valid because you're learning techniques. But I do like when I'm learning things about other people's technologies and because I'm going to go in and leverage those technologies in my day-to-day job. And I think some of the vendors have done that, integrated that well.
Well, in the past at S4 CTFs, the winners, quite frankly, and I'm curious this year if they'll be dethroned, the winners have typically come from either a team from Clarity or a team from Booz Allen. But we used to allow 4 people on a team, and I think this year it's 2. Is that right? Did we agree on 2? Is it a 2-person limit?
Yes,
so that might make things a little more fair.
People participating, right. It's going to be a 2-person team.
Yeah, I think that might make it a little more fair because not a lot of people brought down 4 real talented people solely to work on the CTF. We would typically see anywhere from 30 to 50 people focused maybe 90% plus of their time at the event on the CTF. And those are the ones who obviously will win. And then we'd see maybe another 50 to 75 people that would play at various levels of engagement. So it'd be curious to see. It's a 2-person team. It starts, I think one of the things we did with the schedule here is we have it starting Monday, the day before S4 at 1:00. Yes. So there'll be some sessions going on. The SBOM Pavilion will be open. Pwn to Own will be starting. You can pick up your badge and that sort of thing. But I like the idea here that if you want to check out the CTF and you want to play a little bit, you can do that on Monday and not miss any of the sessions. So it really is a good time if you're buying your plane ticket to come down a little early to experience that and not have to miss anything on the main stage.
Right. And,
Maybe,
of course, there are going to be those experienced teams that are going out there. We've seen that before. But at the same time, because we have those sponsors and each one has their own challenges. Some of the challenges are really easy to do. In other words, we're marking them easy. They're typically going to be scored with some less points, but it's still allows people with a varying skill sets to be able to participate. There are some really challenging questions and puzzles that are being provided, and so it will definitely be a challenge for those teams that are participating, that are those experienced teams that are participating in the event as well. So both, whether or not you're just starting out or you're very experienced, it's going to be a good time for everybody.
and I would imagine, Tom, if there's someone who's not playing the CTF to win, but just wants to experience a little bit, they can probably walk up to the village. You might give them a tip or two as to where to start and what to do that might be a little more accessible.
I absolutely. So we mainly have two types of people that play the CTFs. One for competitive, one for learning. We are bringing people. We have volunteers that are coming to assist with the learning and also assist with the competitive crowd if they get hung up on something. But we have Don, myself, Dylan Lee's coming. We have a person from Grim that's coming, and one other person that's still on the fence. But they're coming to help the people play the CTF.
Great. And I would guess if you go up to one of the rooms, they're probably not going to give you a big hint on the hardest ones, but they'll help you. We want to see people succeed. We want the competition to be fair for those that are really going for it. But the idea, if you're a casual participant of the CTF, is not to walk away frustrated. It's to learn. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Absolutely. And that's part of the criteria that we ask from all the people that are supplying things for us. We ask for some very specific things that tie not only into the portal, but that can allow ICS Village to support some of the things. Because as you mentioned, not that the sponsors aren't always going to be available because they're going to be doing some special events. Certainly their teams are going to have the information they need to provide guidance, whether it's hints or not. In the portal, if they've provided us some hints, and they have, we're going to enter those hints for the different challenges and the different questions. But they also have it provided us with a write-up of what they expect us to be able to provide to people that are asking questions. Certainly it's not the answers, but we can point them in the right direction if they're stuck. And at the very least, like I said, that the teams that are able to support this will be in each of the sponsors areas at different times.
Dale, one of the interesting things that I like about the CTF is the requirement to go to the different sponsors' rooms. So what we've done with that, one is for socialization. You must get off of your table and go to those vendors' rooms and talk to them. So we're going to weight those questions higher. If you don't do them, you just cannot win the CTF. You have to go and you have to interact with those sponsors to solve that challenge. So it's not only the technical part that you need to complete the challenges, but it's also the social part. You have to go up and complete whatever these sponsors have, and not all the sponsors are providing technical or deep technical challenges, which I think is really good because there's something for everyone. And just because you're uber smart doesn't mean you're going to be able to complete the simple challenge either.
Yeah, sometimes you can get tripped up. Well, let's talk logistics. If someone wants to sign up for this, what's your plan? Do they wait till the Monday of the event? Do they sign up ahead of time? What are you looking at, or is that a work in progress?
Well, it's we've as Tom mentioned, we're going to be leveraging the ranges.io, which is provided by the SANS Institute, specifically being provided by the SANS ICS team. Tim Conway is inputting everything in there for us, and he's going to be providing us support during the event. Uh, um, but the way that range IO works, if people are familiar with the SANS Net Wars, it's very similar to that. In other words, they'll have an email address, they'll sign up for the event. As the event is going live, we'll have an event ID, which is specifically associated with the S4 X23. And once once that's going, it will be active for the time periods that we put out there. So as you mentioned, I think from 1 to 5, I think on Monday. And then we've got some different time periods for the following days. The portal will be accessible to the personnel. It doesn't mean that they can't work on the challenges in the evenings and during some of the off times. They can. They'll just have to save, once they get the answers to that, they'll have to save that to when the portal goes active the next morning, and then they can go put that in. We'll be able to watch. We'll have a Zoom session, which we'll have up on monitors, which will be kind of a rotating scoreboard, kind of showing the progress of different teams. But basically what's going to happen is every vendor is going to have their own levels. You don't have to move from level to level to level. Every level will be open, so you'll be able to do all of those different challenges for the different sponsors. But as Tom said, every question is going to be weighted, and the ones that require interactions on location are going to actually be scored higher. Eventually, when we get down to the last day, while it will be turned on, we'll kind of about the last hour before we finish up. What we'll do is we'll turn off the display, so to speak. In other words, we'll do what we call the final countdown and allow people to still submit their scores, but the scores won't be displayed to everybody. And then finally, at the award ceremony, we'll announce the winners of the CTF. Does that answer your question, Dale?
It does. I think we might need to. And we'll let attendees, and we'll probably put out a general announcement when registration opens up.
Okay.
Because we might not want everyone registering right at 1 o'clock. We maybe open it up a few days ahead of times, and then go live with the challenge.
And that's yes, but that is why we kind of we looked to the SANS range IO. It provides us a little bit better support and a little bit better of a solution to handle some of these loads that we might see and some of the interactions. But we'll have more, and we'll post more information as we're getting closer to the event associated with, as you said, the signups, preparation to be involved, and times of when everything's going to kick off.
Okay, and then the last thing, and I get to ask this question a lot. Now, you're probably not going to win if you're not present, because you're not going to be able to do the challenge that require physical interaction with a system that's on site, either in the village or in one of the rooms. Are people able to play with any of the flags if they are, let's say, just somewhere in the world and have internet access, or is anything going to be accessible?
Oh, and what we're going to do is we're going to specifically mark the challenges that are require presence. In other words, you're going to have to be on site to go get something, whether it's to get a file from the vendor or connect to a network that either they're providing or we're providing, because there's a little bit difference. So we will mark those so that people that aren't in attendance, they realize which ones they can do successfully. On those, each one of those questions, it's either going to be a question they can answer by doing simple research, but more than likely there's going to be a file that's associated with that question. It will be in the question itself. You'll be able to download that and start answering the questions from there.
Yeah, because I know those are the ones that people, a lot of times, the competitive teams are working on those at night.
Yes.
They do the ones that they have to be present during the day, and then they still crank at night. Well, that's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes with this multi-flag producing effort here. I know the ICS Village is going to perform well, as you always do. if people want to learn more about the ICS Village, where would they go?
ICSvillage.com.
Well, that's pretty easy. and when they do that, obviously you do things at the events. Is there anything on that site that would be helpful to someone learning in this area that maybe is unrelated to an event, that's just always evergreen type stuff?
So our YouTube channel is growing larger and larger, really every month. Bryson Bort, one of the co-founders, does a Hack to Plant podcast that's up there. Plus all of our recordings from previous conferences and events. All the recordings that we were able to record are up there. So we have hundreds and hundreds of YouTube video links to our YouTube channel and videos. We have we're building out a resource page now for white papers and things like that. We also list all of our events for 2023 that we have signed up for. We are adding more and more events all the time. So ICSvillage.com is a great place to start.
And is there a nice link, like a volunteer button or something like that, if someone wanted to get involved and help out or donate?
Absolutely. There's a contact us where volunteers and sponsors can click and it'll come to us and we will gladly respond.
Well, we did give. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, and I just like to point it out because Tom didn't bring it up. There is a section of the site where if you have a project in mind, if you have something that you want to do research on, but you need support. And I get questions all the time. How do I do research on these devices, or how do I build an ICS environment? Well, if you have an idea, a specific idea with some specific goals in mind, so there is a place to submit that request. It gets reviewed by the team, and some of those ICS Village will provide equipment and other things to help facilitate some of that research. So that is available out there. It's that's where some of the money from the sponsors goes to, whether it's money or whether it's equipment and other things that they provide. So that is there on the site as well. Okay,
well, great. Thanks, guys, for coming on the show, giving us a little heads up as to what's going to happen at the event. I will be seeing you in a month. If you do come to S4, it's going to be hard to miss the ICS Village because it's going to be right, right outside of stage 2 technical deep dives. So you'll be able to see it and interact with it and play as much as you like on the CTF. So thanks again, guys.
Excellent. Thank you for having us.